even the small things, even celebrating the tiny things can help bring a kernel of confidence back at a time. Because confidence is earned through overcoming those obstacles. But too many times we look at the big concept and then we go, and I have made Axel guilty of this. So for example, many of you guys saw my live video from Ozark Mountain Nationals. He lost that match by 1 point. And yet, I was so proud of him. He did a really, really good match. Even all the judges were super impressed. They come up and made sure that he knew they were super impressed with his technique and his tactics. He just got caught in that last second, right? And yet he was down on it. He was like, well, but none of that matters because I lost. And I was like, and I felt bad because I realized that that's the me in him, right? That I kind of instilled that in him. And I'm doing my best to make up for that by celebrating the small victories. So I made sure to go back through the video of his match and talk about all the wonderful things that he did, all the awesome moments that he had, and all the times that, he kind of, I won't say got robbed, but where like the other kid turned his back on him when he would have landed a good kick. And of course, kicks to the back don't count. And so, there were times that he almost scored points, but, that the other kid turned his back or whatever, and to just point out to him that he could have won, you know what I mean? That he didn't lose because he was bad or worse than the other kid. He just lost because that's the way the points laid in 2 minutes, right? But that didn't mean he played a bad match. And so we tried to celebrate in that and help him gain that confidence back. Because I've seen my child's confidence drop about 3 years ago because he was such this socialite, and then all of a sudden he wasn't unless he was at the school. But if I take him out in town somewhere and I try to get him to make friends, I try to get him to introduce himself to somebody, I say, hey, there's a kid over there playing, why don't you go say hi? He falls apart, and it's the me in him, the anxiety of it and this, that, and the other, and I don't want to rub off on my child like that. So one of the things that helps in instilling that confidence, one of the things that's helped me in the past couple of years and helping to instill that confidence in him is making sure that I'm not correcting at the wrong times, but that instead I'm celebrating when the small things that are done right, even if something could have been done better, still celebrate the small things that are done right, and then not correcting directly, but correcting subtly in classes or the next time we have an opportunity to correct such a thing. Now, I'm not really talking about behavior. What I'm talking about is that, like I say, confidence and self-esteem, which, like I say, is earned through overcoming obstacles, right? So the thing is so many of us get to a point that we've lost so many times that we start to run away from the challenges because we're just tired of losing and all the consequences that come along with losing. But there's got to come a point where we all get together and we start realizing that in order to succeed, you have to lose, you have to fail. And so failing cannot be something we teach our children as a bad word anymore, right? As a bad thing. We have to learn to teach our children that failure is a good thing. It is the path to success, and that failure is a necessary part of success, and to not be afraid of failure, but instead run towards it. So I was so proud when I was doing that live video from Ozark Mountain, and I caught Axel and was talking to him. It was before his sparring match, but I was so proud of him when he said he was, what was his quote for you guys that were on there? Something about how he'd been thinking about last night, whether he was going to win or lose, and just decided he'd find out today, right? And that was a big leap for him, to come to that point from where he had been, which was just always scared that, I'm going to lose, and then thinking that he would have to win to make everybody happy. And I never wanted him to feel like he had that kind of pressure on him, because at his level, there aren't any other there's not very many advanced ranked children his age. And honestly, I tried to hold him back, and he knows I've tried to hold him back, and that's probably what hurt his confidence a little bit. And yet at the same time, he keeps overcoming every challenge I put in front of him, and so I've never been able to hold him back. But when we go to tournaments, he ends up having to do exhibition matches mostly against kids who are older, bigger, stronger, and more experienced. And that's just like the kid he sparred the other day was a 9-year-old, right? He's 7. and he lost by 1 single point. He did an incredible job, and they'd both been training for relatively about the same amount of time from what I understand. That kid was in the intermediate rank in his style, but he said that he did not rank advance a couple times, not because he failed the test, but just because he wanted to stay at that rank for the tournament season. Which is something a lot of people do when they're really into tournaments, right? They'll hold a rank for a whole tournament season so that they don't have to jump ranks in the middle of the tournament season. And I understand that. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying anything bad about that. All I'm saying is that you can tell Axel all you want, hey, that kid was bigger, stronger, you know, it's okay. You're only 7, he's 9. But that means nothing to him. It's like D, right? So Tosh is on here. He sees D do something, and he'll go, oh, you know, he'll get upset with himself because he'll try it, and he'll go, oh, I can't do it. And I'll say, yeah, you can. You just got to keep trying. And he'll be like, well, D can do it. And I was like, well, yeah, but D's 14, and he's been doing it. You know, he's been trying at it for a long time. And to Axel, though, that just doesn't matter. If he sees someone else able to do it, he thinks he should be able to do it as well. And that's really hard on his confidence. So been really trying to teach him to even celebrate in his failures, even celebrate when, you know, things aren't going his way, even celebrate when he's losing, just to find one small thing that he knows he did well, such as in that match, he scored a 3-point jump spin kick to the head off his heels moving backwards, which is just something you very rarely see that in black belt sparring, right? And he scored that point, and I was like, look at that though, look at that. And he had a bunch of people come up to him that weren't even judges and scorekeepers that were like, that was some like ESPN worthy stuff right there. Like that was a beauty, you know, some of his defensive sides and stuff. Oh, is D like that too? Like age doesn't matter, right? And he's like, I'll tell Axel, I was like, it's okay, bud, you're 7. You got lots of time to catch up to where D's at on different things. And he just doesn't matter, right? He's, oh, I should be able to do it now. And he'll keep working at it, but then he'll fail a few times, and then he'll get where he gets scared of trying because he thinks he should be able to do it now. And so it hurts his confidence. So I've had to really work to do less correcting on him in the past several years, and couple years, and more celebrating on the fact that he tried and the effort that he puts forward. And by celebrating that effort, he's been getting a lot better. Yeah, that kick was a beauty. You should see the video Miss Rose has of it. I know on my live video, one of the judges was blocking the view, but Miss Rose got a beautiful video of that jump spin hook. And he didn't land on his feet, but it was still a beautiful point. I mean, oh my goodness, it was a beautifully well-controlled kick, and it was a beautiful 3-point head kick. You just don't see that very often, even in black belts. So I made sure to celebrate with him in that for a while, and I think this is the first time that he's lost a match in 2 or 3 years that he wasn't crying and upset on his way home just because he lost, even though he did well. He just, I don't know, he holds himself to such high expectations, and I understand why he does that. That's my fault. He holds himself to those high expectations because I was always going, hey, that was an awesome match. Hey, that was an awesome job. I'm so proud of your effort. But then I was turning around and going, hey, you know what? You could have done better. And that was the problem. Me telling him, hey, these are the things you could have done better, were the things that were tearing apart his confidence, right? And he would get upset easily, and he would get super frustrated, just like you say, D, right? He gets super frustrated. And I'm trying to work on that and get him to celebrate his failures, and it's been better. It's been better. He was able to do a lot more celebration of his failures this weekend at Ozark Mountain than he has in many other things that he's done before. And not just Ozark Mountain, that was a good test of it, but even in other things, right? Games we play at home and stuff like that, he's getting far less concerned about when he gets behind or losing. He's learning that games can go to the last minute and last second. You can always come back. He's becoming far more concerned about just playing and doing things than he is about winning at it. And I'm glad to see that come around. And then what I try to do, like say for the past couple of years, and it does take time, is just to make sure that we're celebrating the effort, celebrating the fact that they try, celebrating whatever small thing that they do correctly, right? So Axel's been wanting to learn how to backflip and front flip for years. So I got him a trampoline for his birthday, just a cheap trampoline for his birthday last year in April, so he could work on them. And I caught myself the first week he had it starting to try to correct him and go, hey, all right, if you want to land it, you can do it a little bit like this. And then I finally stopped doing that. When I stopped doing that and just started going, yeah, buddy, you're getting it. Yeah, you're going to get it. Yeah, just keep trying, you know. And then he started coming up with things on his own to improve it, his own corrections, and go, I think I need to jump higher. Yeah, maybe that'll help. Try jumping higher. And do that and go, well, I don't know how to get any higher. I say, well, I don't know, man. Try swinging your arms up. And then he'll allow me to correct him then, because I'm not forcefully correcting him. He's actively looking for the correction. And that doesn't seem to hurt his confidence as much, versus if I would just say, hey, you were so close. That was an awesome effort. That was a great job. But maybe you should try it like this. He would very quickly give up on it for the day and go, oh, I don't want to try anymore. And mostly it was just because he felt like if you make a child feel like they are making you happy with their performance, then they're not going to want to perform in front of you. And it's gotten to the point, and that's why I was saying I promised Axel I wouldn't watch him at the tournament. He doesn't like to perform in front of me. And so I'm trying to work on that by every time I can get him to perform something, a form or something in front of me, that I don't overcorrect, you know what I mean? I don't overdo it. And instead make sure that I really compliment what he is doing well, and then just kind of remind him that he needs to do that all the way through, right? I'm like, I like this part, and the way you did this first part of your form, you know, if you do that all the way through your form, it's going to be amazing. And if I say it like that, instead of saying, hey, I love the first part, but you lost power at the end, maybe if you could keep strong, you know, just by changing my phrasing a little bit seems to have helped his confidence a lot. So to help your child's confidence and self-esteem, it really helps to celebrate the failures, celebrate the victories, stop making them think that failure is a bad word or that you're somehow going to be disappointed. And the fact is even if you're not disappointed, they might start thinking that you will be, right? They might start thinking that you're going to be disappointed in them if they can't do it. And that's tricky. It's tricky to avoid that. It's tricky to get them to avoid that trap. And that's exactly what it is. It is a trap. So trying to keep them out of that trap, especially at tender ages of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, is pretty hard. It's pretty tricky. It's something that I love Mr. Moeller for. Mr. Moeller's really, really good at the confidence thing and basically showing a child a challenge and then helping them through that challenge in a way that actually builds confidence without building that, what I've accidentally done with Axel, that seeking for approval, right? And that's why we always talk about in classes, and I even tell it to the kids, my opinion about your performance doesn't matter. I'm just here to tell you what you're doing right and how you can get better. The only person whose opinion that matters is your own. And I'll even tell kids, like, your parents' opinion of how you're doing your form doesn't matter. The only opinion that matters is, did you do your best? Do you think you did your best? Do you think that you nailed it or no, right? And those are the opinions that really matter. And that's where confidence starts to build, and confidence comes from eventually overcoming those obstacles. A lot of people think of confidence as just some kind of mental switch you can flip to just suddenly start believing you can do something, but it's not that simple. Confidence comes from a slow process of learning that you can do more than you thought. So I was talking to Miss Kiesling, Jessica, because she competed as well, and she did very, very well in the continuous sparring divisions, which is one of the most difficult divisions to compete in. There aren't even all that many tournaments that offer it anymore, but she did extremely well in that. Didn't place in forms, but as I was pointing out to her, the reason I like to have people do traditional forms at tournaments, there's a lot of judge bias when it comes to traditional forms, because depending on your judges, they may be from different styles, they may not understand the form, there's a lot of different blah blah blah, but I still make people that compete do their traditional form, not because I care about whether they win or lose, but because the moment that they stand up there in front of everybody and everybody's watching and the heart is pounding and racing and they're ultra anxious and ultra nervous and they can still do it anyway, then they come out of that on the other side, and this is part of a black belt test too, they come out of that on the other side, and then it gives them something they can hold on to for confidence, so that next time they run into something that is a challenge, they have something to draw from and go, hey, I accomplished this once, regardless of these feelings, I can do it again. And that's one of the things that I used. I've never, I won't say overcome my anxiety disorders, but what I did manage to do was do things in spite of them. And the reason I was able to do things in spite of my anxiety disorders is by reminding myself of my first black belt test. And I did it on, I did it with a torn tendon in my back. And my second degree black belt test, I did it with a broken foot. I reminded myself of different tournaments I did that I lost in, but I got up and stood toe to toe with some of the best in the country. And maybe I lost, but those are experiences that I draw off of to go, hey, I felt ultra anxious in that environment. I feel ultra anxious in this environment, but this is nothing compared to that. And if I could overcome doing that, then I can overcome doing this. And it helps me to push through that anxiety and get to where I need to go anyway, right? Yeah, Brandy, we all have to remember it. This is a mistake that I made on Axel when he was around 4 or 5. And I've been correcting it for 2 years. I've been trying to correct this mistake in myself for 2 years, trying not to coach as much as it is that I support. So, hey, Axel. Oh, now he's listening to me. Hey, buddy. So most kids, is what I was trying to say. Most kids don't quit sports or activities at a tournament or at class. We get this all the time, right? I get parents that call us up and go, I don't know, it's just like, he comes to class and he loves it, but and always has a good time, but then it's hard to get him to come to class. Now that can be for one of 3 or 4 reasons, and I have an article that's written about this from a colleague of mine. One, it could be that they're having fun at home and they just don't want to change up what they're doing, or maybe they're tired. But one of the big reasons most kids quit a sport is because of the ride home. It's because of dad going, hey, why didn't you score that goal? Hey, why didn't you try this? Hey, you should have kept your hands up better, right? So if a kid comes to sparring class and they do okay, but they had a rough day at sparring class, maybe they had their hands down and took a couple of light shots to the head, we got gear on and everything. It's the ride home where mom and dad's like, hey, you should have kept your hands up. And of course, we tell them to keep their hands up too. I'm not saying we don't coach them, but hey, you should have kept your hands up. Hey, you should have done this. But you know what? The kids don't worry about our approval. They worry about their parents' approval. And then the person that they're worried about the approval, that parent, whether it's you as a mother or father, that they want the approval from, on the ride home from that sparring class starts talking about all the things they wish their kid would have. Well, you should have kept your hands up. You would have done better. Maybe if you'd have thrown this, you would have done better. Maybe if you'd done this, you would have done better. That's where kids quit. Kids quit activities at that point. Same thing with soccer, basketball, football, any of it. If you go watch a kid play a game of soccer and they felt pretty good about the game, or they had the game or whatever, then on the ride home maybe they lost and they're upset, and on the ride home you're just trying to help as a parent. You say, well, maybe next time if you try this, if you do this, if you do some sprints or something before the next one so you get your cardio up, whatever it is, then it's that correction from the parent, the person that they want that approval from, that will make them quit the sport, because then they start thinking that they're never going to get that approval. And they're not worried about getting approval from their coaches. They do want approval from their coaches, but they also understand that that's what a coach is there for, is for that correction. But the parent is kind of the safe place, right? So if the parent starts acting like the coach, that's where kids quit sports. And that's one of the biggest reasons kids quit sports. And as I have found in my own experience with people that have quit for that reason, where I've had kids or tried to quit or whatever, because sometimes they stay, is the first thing I ask the parents is after I talk to the kid a little bit, and then the first thing I'll ask them about, what the ride home is like after the last class they had, or after something that made them feel bad, or the tournament they did, or whatever. And I ask them, well, what do your parents say about it? Are your parents proud that you tried? Are your parents proud you competed? And then I usually over half the time, get answers like, well, they told me I should have done this better. They told me I should have listened to my coaches better. They told me I should have focused better. They told me I should have this. And I was like, okay, so that's why they're wanting to quit. That's why they're not wanting to come to class, is they want to come to class because they want to have fun, and the class is fun, and the coaches are fun, and they enjoy that. But the ride home with the parents, where the parents are overcorrecting things that, yes, we've been correcting, and maybe we were trying to correct in class, but then the parents supporting that correction sometimes is what ends up causing the child to want to quit or not want to come to class again, because they're worried that they're going to come home and the parent, the person they want love and approval from more so than their coach, is going to start giving them that disapproving thing, right? And so it becomes where they start to fear going to class, because that becomes a danger zone to losing their safe space with their parent. Does that make sense? Right? And so that's why it's important to have coaches that do things, that make corrections instead of necessarily coaching your own kids in sports, which is a problem that I've had. And so I've hired Axel a couple of other coaches. Yes, it costs me money that I don't really have, but I find it important to have him train with Mr. Moeller, to have him train with Mr. Garvey, to have him train with the guys at this parkour gym across the city, because he's not as worried about their approval as he is mine. It takes me out of the coach's position and allows me to become the safe place for him again, right? Because I'm not the one doing the correcting. Someone else is doing that. And they recognize that that person is supposed to correct them. But when the parent starts correcting too on the way home, and that parent's the person they seek approval from because they want that love and support, then that's where kids quit. That's where kids quit sports most of the time.